And so I'm walking to class, and it's in the middle of the hallway. We get pulled out of aside by our mathematics teacher. This is 8th grade. And she pulls 4 of us out. She says, well, frankly, she takes the roll before we enter class. So everybody lines up to enter class. She's taking the roll. And then before she gets to our names, she says, y'all wait here. Y'all wait here. So she says something like, Jacob, Brett, Rodrigo, and Beau, y'all don't get to enter just yet. Well, she was out of class for a week, so we had a substitute teacher. And the substitute teacher was known for many things. And frankly, I can't remember what he was known for, but it was many things. And apparently the substitute teacher left some notes on the class. And apparently we were a bad class. So bad, in fact, that the other comrades in other classes, there's 6 classes throughout the day. I was in the 3rd class. The kids call it 3rd period. The classes throughout the day, 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6, they all shared how class number 3 got a bad report and how bad we must have been. Well, anyway, I don't know what we were doing other than being 8th grade ladies and gentlemen, or gentlemen and ladies, either one. And Miss Bell, she takes us, she says, don't go into class yet. I've got to talk to y'all. And she goes line by line, 4 of us, and she shares her thoughts about us, young children. And she gets to me and she says something to the effect of, Beau, you're not passive, aggressive. You're not aggressive. You're not passive aggressive. You're not passive. I don't know what you are, but I don't like you. And so I said, thank you, ma'am. May I go learn now? You know what I'm saying? And that was one of the more interesting interactions with a fellow teacher I've had in middle school. But to this day, I'm not totally sure what Miss Bell is up to these days, getting her phalanges into. But if it's 8th grade, ladies and gentlemen, I hope she's had some better periods than the 3rd one of 2013, maybe it was. Well, that was powerful. And so we continue on through the class. The other guys and gals, they were told they were passive aggressive, they were aggressive, they needed to watch their lingo in the classroom. It wasn't always conducive to the environment. But Miss Bell, there was something about my presence that she just did not enjoy. I like to think of it as probably my undeniably beautiful face, outstanding personality, and my ability to eat 4 pizzas in one sitting. If you saw me in 8th grade, you know exactly what I was talking about. My 8th grade graduation, I believe, I was the same weight I am now, just about 1 foot shorter. The loompa of the oompa, if you'll allow me to say it that way. Well, anyway, I can't even remember her first name, but Miss Bell, if you're listening to this, and I hope you are, I love you deeply and generously. Brett loves you deeply and generously, though he went to another middle school, and Rodrigo loves you deeply and generously. He went to another middle school as well, but if we share that, that could be bad. But that origin story of Rodrigo and Brett's feud kind of comes from that. So next time Brett's on the pod, I'll have to let him share because it's a powerful story. Well, we continue to learn, and turns out I was one of the I was one of the great students that Miss Bell ever had, probably. Who knows? But Johnny, let's say that's the substitute name, Mr. Johnny. And actually, what a guess. I think it is. Johnny Johnson, I think was his name. Though I could be wrong about that. But Johnny Johnson, if you're listening to that, if you're still alive out there, we all love you deeply and generously. I'm sorry for what Period 3 did to you. I hope you've recovered since then. 8th graders are interesting. They are. But teachers are on my mind because I just wanted to take a moment to appreciate all the teachers. You know, teachers are coming back to school this week in a lot of counties and in a lot of nations and public areas. And I wouldn't be who I was without education and my teachers. You know, I think we could all sit here and proclaim the majesties of our teachers over the years, but there is one teacher that I must proclaim the goodness of, and that is my mother. Though she did not teach me in elementary school, middle school, or high school as a professional teacher, she did teach me in elementary, middle, and high school and university as a mother. She's given her life to the sake of education, you know, not just professional education through school systems, but education of children, her children, and now more and more the education of her parents. I think it's beautiful, the circle of life we're experiencing here. The education of her grandson and granddaughter. Again, not professional, but just care, a general care. I believe it's been over 30 years for her. She's at the 30-year mark, and she's marking on a new endeavor. And so she'll be working with those that need special assistance in their classrooms. I think it's rather admirable. She is the right woman for the job. I'm thrilled for her, and I'm thankful for her. But if you're a teacher out there, from me, Brett, and Rodrigo, we can't thank you enough. You know, your deep and generous love for your students makes an impact in their life. I think of it as an investment. You may not see the results dependent upon the school and the school system and the areas of the county and city in which you live. You may not see the results immediately, but an investment isn't about seeing results immediately. It is about compounding effort so that the gentle man and gentle lady continually grow. It's almost exponential. It's exactly exponential, I believe. You'll have ups in the market, you'll have stagnant times in the market, you'll have downs in the market. But if you take a look back at the 30 years of which your student has been invested in, or your child has been invested in, or you yourself have been invested in, you would see commonly an upward trend of growth. That's not something to overlook. That's something to celebrate. And I think that's one of the things that's difficult with teachers is whenever you try to teach a concept and it isn't immediately grasped, you can get frustrated. You think it's an indication of your teaching ability. I'd encourage you not to listen to the lie of the enemy there, my friend. I think he can easily discourage you because we live in such an instantly gratified society. Because if we care about our work, we care about our jobs, we will begin to take on the persona of the student and want to grab them appropriately by the shoulders and shake them. Why are you not understanding this? What can I do better? And their answer might be, I don't know, my friend. I don't know. Maybe I'm a slow learner. Maybe I just am not passionate. Or most of all, maybe I'm just not willing to put in the effort. And I think that's what Miss Bell didn't like about me, is she didn't think I put in the effort. She thought I was idiotic, moronic, and frankly, had nothing up there in the brain. But she was wrong. She was wrong. You know, I usually perform well with better teachers, is what I should have said to her. Miss Bell, if you're listening at this point, you should probably turn this off, because I had to get a tutor in your class, and tutors are not indicative of a needed higher learning ability. Tutors are usually indicative of poor execution on the teacher's front. Man, I don't know why I'm saying this. This is just what's on my heart. Apparently, I'm processing my grief with you, the listener, trying to recover from that traumatic experience in the 8th grade, where I was held against my will in the hallway by my 8th grade teacher, sharing that she wasn't sure why I upset her, but she needed me to know that. Thank you, listener. I'm at a loss for words. This is not where the podcast was going, but it is where it is now. And so we're going to take the shovel, we're going to grab the dirt that we dug, and slowly repatch over the next few minutes. Sometimes you just have those students. Some students don't get it, and that's okay. They need an extra assist. I think there's something beautiful about that no students are created the same. No educator is created the same. There's no one-size-fits-all formula for the education of life, nor mathematics, nor reading. There are certainly concepts that'll get you far, but take following the Lord, for example. No one-size-fits-all for a life that follows the Lord. What I mean by this is you could have a person from a different walk of life try to follow the Lord in the same capacity that maybe I'm trying to follow the Lord in, and do the similar things. And what's actually happening is you're idolizing the things of which your comrade is trying to do, which is not what following the Lord has called us to do. We're called to glorify the Lord in everything we do. We're trying to follow his footsteps, follow in the dust of the rabbi, as the Bible would say. That means that you are following so closely to the teaching of his ways. The rabbi juniors, if you'll allow me to share, I don't know the theological term, but they would always say you need to follow in the dust of the rabbi, follow in the dust of the rabbi. What that means is you're following so closely the way they walk, the way they move about their day, that you are on their proverbial tail, and literal tail sometimes, and you're getting dust kicked in your face from their sandals or bare feet because you're so close. You're so enamored with the way they live life. And that's what the follower of Christ is called to. We should be so enamored with the way Jesus lives life, with the way Jesus operates, that we are in his dust, if you'll allow me to share that. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful imagery. Oftentimes we want to be clean in this scenario. We would see dust as, ooh, that would get me dirty. And ironically, it will, because Jesus went to the dirtiest of people and met their physical needs, then met their spiritual needs. He sets the example for us. We're going to get dirty as followers of the Lord, and we need to be okay with that. I think over time, the Holy Spirit molds us and shapes us and softens us to do such a thing. But again, we couldn't do this without educators. Jesus was a fantastic educator. He used stories to educate. There's something to study there. And if you're an educator, I'm sure you've studied the life of Jesus and how he teaches concepts to people. And it's a powerful thing. Any communicator would see that and celebrate it and emulate it. Well, there are some things that occurred this past week that are worth mentioning to you, the listener, if you care about this podcast and us. And obviously, if you are at this point, you do care. And so I celebrate that. But there are some teachers that need to be recognized other than my mother and Miss Bell and Johnny Johnson. There's a longtime listener of this podcast, Riley. She is entering her first year of teaching professionally, and we are excited for her. There's a longtime educator, friend, brother that doesn't listen to this podcast but is a relative, and that is my brother. He will be working for his third, I believe, year in the education system. It's a powerful time. You know, there's a generation of educators incoming that need to be invested in, and they were invested in by previous educators. So if you get anything from this podcast, you need to go celebrate an educator in your life. Tell them, write them, deliver a note by carrier pigeon to them about how impactful they've been in your life, how they've shaped and molded your perspective. You know, I think of my friend and professor, Dr. Chris, and I forget his last name, but he was my entrepreneurship professor, probably one of my favorite classes, and one of my most learned lessons in entrepreneurship came from him. He was an educator. He shared two things that are worth sharing. One, your best entrepreneurial idea for your first entrepreneurial idea needs to be something with zero investment, monetary investment. You should be able to create something that requires you to spend nothing other than labor. So say you have resources like a local computer or a local laptop and your time. The whole idea is you need to offer something that is where people fund it as they go. Now, I'm not saying this is entrepreneurship completely. I'm saying that is the best thing to do. Say you want to be an entrepreneur, you have zero funds, you aren't Elon Musk, you have no investment backing, you aren't Donald Trump, who allegedly got $1 million from his father. This is if you have a passion to be an entrepreneur, you have an idea, you need to create an idea, and you need to create one business that creates money without any investment of your own money. You see what I'm saying? Oftentimes, those will take much longer to grow. Oftentimes, they'll be less profitable in the long run than if you did have money, because you have to have money to make money. But this is a good start. If you're looking to get your entrepreneurial wheels off the ground, this is a good start. And so there's something to learn there. But I also wanted to share a story. He bought some grass. And he advertised his business at the University of Oklahoma. He planted the seed of the grass into a different type of grass. I believe rye grows year-round. Oklahoma grass dies. You can see where this is going. So if you create a word outline, plant the seed of the grass into the dead grass, but the seed of the new grass, you know it's going to grow, what's going to happen? Aerial view of the words. You're going to get an aerial view. And that aerial view was his company. That's a great idea. It is illegal, however. So you need to be careful there. But it's innovative. It is 10 plus points for creativity, minus 100 for prison. So you'll have to choose and fight your battles. But shout out Professor Chris. He was a great professor. If you get the opportunity to take an entrepreneurship course, I'd encourage you to. Well, there are some good things that happened this week. We played the worst rated golf course in Florida. This was me, Brett, Big Lou, and Kabowie. The gentlemen of old, as we call ourselves. We were the college friend. They call it the Goopcation. We were all together. We had, I believe, 11 of us, 7 adults. Nope, we have a lot more than, 4 children. So there was 11. 7 plus 4 is 11. Jesse, Mary Beth, their child, Lucas Hadley, their child, Brett, Molly, their 2 children, and myself. We all took part in a wonderful and memorable weekend. A couple things we did was obviously play the worst rated course in Florida. We also went to the aquarium, and I might get emotional sharing this because there was something beautiful that occurred. We were at the aquarium. We were at one of the sites. There was a tunnel you walk through a tunnel aquarium with people, not people, but fish and wildlife and marine life swimming above you and to your left and in front of you. Well, the gentleman was talking, and he's talking about a turtle. There's a sea turtle in there. Her name is Hannah. And he's talking, and he says, Hannah, yeah, she's blind. Hannah's blind. That was the end of that. Well, we walk off, and then we walk back, and he's talking to some younger children. He's like, yeah, Hannah's blind. She got hit by a boat, and she can't see anything. And he seemed a little excited to share that. I thought that was interesting. But he continues on, and there was this ugly-looking fish. And I'm like, Brother John, what kind of fish do we have here? And he says, that's the cleaner wrasse fish. And I sit there amazed and astonished at the coincidences of the Lord. And that's an oxymoron, because the Lord doesn't offer coincidences. He offers perfect plans. And this was one of his perfect plans. And so Brother John is sharing about the cleaner wrasse fish. And if you remember anything about this podcast, we just did a podcast on the whole purpose of the cleaner wrasse fish and how I was studied up on it. And so we had a great conversation and how the cleaner wrasse fish connects to the Lord in our ways, and how we should be the cleaner wrasse fish for those seeking to eat us. You know what I'm saying? Think about that for a moment. Go ahead. We'll link that episode in the podcast show notes for you, so you can listen to that, refresh your memory about the cleaner wrasse. Well, anyway, we continue on. We get to see some sharks and such, and then we get to see manatees. Manatees were a hit. We take a photo. We'll share that on social media. It's a pretty powerful photo with the manatee in the background. All in all, it was a good time together. We go to the course on Saturday morning, hit up Chick-fil-A beforehand, go to the course, guy walks out. This is the Terror Preserve where Brett shared about the nematodes and the gentleman who was asleep. And Billie Jean, excuse me, or Bonnie Jean, I can't quite remember. Either way, we get there, we get a great deal. Pay for 3, 4 people get to play, and you get a free beverage as part of the package as well. Coke Zeros for the whole table. And we walk out there, we get there. Well, we get done with hole 9. Beautiful sunny day. We walk into Bonnie Jean's. It's closed. It's 9:30 in the morning. No Coke Zeros available. So we go to hole 10. Hole 10, we start the back 9. We decide we'll hit it up afterward. We go to hole 10. We get to hole 10, par 5, dog leg left, hit it right over the sand bunkers. And I'll tell you what, this is literally one of the worst courses I've ever played. It's worse than the time Brett and I played it a few years ago. Well, there's 2 sandhill cranes, and if you know anything about sandhill cranes, they mate for life. So that's why you see a lot of them. If you see sandhill cranes, you'll see them in packs of 2, or their mate was killed. One of those 2 things happened. The ribeyes of the sky, illegal to hunt in Florida, I hear. Anyway, we're 180 out. I get my 6-iron out. I hit it toward the green, hopefully. There's 2 sandhill cranes down there. I'm kind of aiming right at them. I hit it. I'm expecting this thing. I try to put a little fade on it so it'll turn to the left for the left-handed gentleman. And I try to get it to the green. Well, what ends up happening is I hit a line drive. It's dead straight, going for right at the sandhill cranes. And it absolutely pegs one of the sandhill cranes on the green. Bounces off the sandhill crane, lands on the green. It was beautiful. So we walk up to the green, and there's my ball. And around the ball is a lot of feathers. And on the ball is a mark, the mark of the sandhill crane. And I've never done that in my life before, but it was absolutely hysterical. Well, we continue on our journey on the back nine. Hole 16 goes out. Big Lou has never played golf in his life before. And this guy's sinking 30-foot putts out of nowhere. Hole 16 comes out. It starts to pour down rain. And when I mean pour down rain, that is exaggeration. It is literal cats and dogs coming out there. Big Lou gets on the green. He's lying 14, I believe. And the guy doesn't even look at it. It's pouring down rain. He says, if you're going to play bad, play fast. Hits the putt, doesn't even look at it, drains it, runs off. We get drenched. Big Lou, he shot a negative 31 course record. It was incredible. Well, we get rain delayed for just a few minutes. Hole 18 comes about. We are in the middle of the fairway. Big Lou pulls out the 3-wood. That's a hybrid, which usually means if you make contact, it's flying pretty hard. Brett, I don't know if he didn't have belief in Big Lou to make great contact, but he was standing right in front of Big Lou, his aim point. And Lou, he hits it. He strikes it. And Brett is moving. He's moving to the left toward the water. And the ball is also moving to the left toward the right, toward the water. Which means I'm watching Brett just try to make a run for it. He jumps, and the ball just pelts him right in the rear, the right cheek of his rump. And you hear an audible, oh! And then just absolute cackling afterward. All of us fall to our knees in astonished, amused agony, crying to the Lord above how generous he has to offer us this memory that will last us a lifetime. And Brett, he bruised pretty well. And Lou, I think he birdied that. He ended up birdieing. It was a great round of golf. We hit up Bonnie Clyde's right afterward. And we met Liz, the volunteer. And she is single-handedly or double-handedly keeping that afloat. She has invested her time to create something meaningful for others. And I think that's beautiful. Her energy, her personality was out of this world. You could feel it in the room. I believe palpable was the word used, and I'd say that's an accurate word. Speaking of words, we learned about Wombos, word combos. Whenever I think of Wombos, here are some Wombos for us. The best one that I know is the gynecologist. And it is when a guy knows ballologist. I think of one of our longtime listeners, Mando Pando, the Big Red Machine. You talk to him about anything, but specifically college football, the Florida Gators, or the National Football League and the Jacksonville Jaguars. That is a gynecologist. If you need to go see the gynecologist for one of those, I would recommend Mando. But here's some other word combos that are fairly powerful that I'd like to share with you, and maybe you could use in your everyday vocabulary. One of these is quiche Lorraine. Quiche Lorraine. And that is when you find something quick that is niche and you've learned it. Quiche Lorraine. There is another thing, peak pep talk. You're given a pep talk that is peak. That's sometimes what this Quite Frankly podcast is. That's peep talk. Chuckle, snort, chortle, glamorous camping, glamping. These are old classics, Wombo. Information commercial, infomercial. You get the gist. And so try to work in some Wombos in your day. Here are some must-know new Wombos, some new age Wombos. Smart, hilarious, and aura. Smilaria. Guy knows ball. Ographer. Gynebolographer. Unintelligent, transformed genius. So that's when you go from unintelligent to a genius. That's a Uranus. See, you can get funny with these, of course. And so she, Kirk, knows ball. Sure, no ball. You get the point. Kirk and Kirkwalk. Some of these, I don't even know what these mean, but I'm just letting you know in case you want to. And so try to work some of those in, like I said. But you know what's beautiful is we returned. You get to hang out with these people once a year, and you always, the weekend always flies by, and you're reminded about how generous the Lord has been to you to provide such friendships, to provide the time and the ability, and quite frankly, the effort from all of these people to want to spend time with one another each and every year. Whenever I look at them, I see the next generation growing in the ways of the Goop, which is the Gentleman of Old Plus. That's a Wombo in and of itself. Gentleman of Old Plus is the Goop. And we celebrate that. But there's always an opportunity to invest in the upcoming, but know that it's going to take a while. It's not an instant gratification type investment. I'd say those are oxymoronic in general. And so you can't just expect to put in time and receive and reap the benefits of that. Sometimes you will never reap the benefits of your time on this earth, but you certainly will in the heavens, in the new heaven, in the new earth. And that's what we're working toward ultimately, is the new heaven and the new earth. We shouldn't expect treasures on this earth to satisfy. I believe we shared that last week. Is you can enjoy the things of this life, but you will never be truly satisfied by the things of this life apart from Christ Jesus. And the ultimate satisfaction is life through and in Him. So if you have questions about that, hit up Rodrigo in the chat. Teachers, educators of the like, we are thankful for you, whether you serve on the grounds of public, private education and school boards, and executive boards, any type of educator. We can't thank you enough for your investment in the people around you, in yourselves, and us, and your children, and your families. Again, this podcast wouldn't exist without educators. And you're probably listening to this podcast thinking, are you sure these people are educated? They have some interesting and quite frankly, awful takes. And I don't know what to say to you other than that was rather aggressive of you. So shout out, Miss Beau. I'm appreciative of you, my friend. I hope we can mend our relationship. I don't hold grudges, though I'm not certain if you do. But feel free to reach out to Rodrigo. We'll get in touch. We maybe interview a former educator in the school system. I could go on and on about educators in my life because they've made such a fantastic and phenomenal impact. And I'm thankful for them. They're thankful for you, listener, to provide that. And that's why we're going to see you in 7 days, because we love you deeply and generously. And we're going to see you in 7 days.